You have to see the value in our opinion on what we should be creating with that mouse. But if we're just doing what you tell us to do, there's cheaper options for that.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Ryan Boylston, CEO and founder of Two-Ton. Talk about what life was like before Two-Ton, how things have changed over the years, and what he has planned for the future. I hope you enjoyed this episode. So my first question is, who is your nickname, right? How did that kind of come to?
Yeah, you've really done your research there. You know what? When I was in the corporate world, I grew up in the auto industry. I interned all through high school, all through college in the auto industry. And then, of course, my first job was in the auto industry. And when I was working for Toyota, they pulled all the new area managers that had recently been promoted in the South Carolina, North Carolina area. They put them all around the table and had them do a personality test to find out what kind of leader they were, what kind of traits they had. How are we going to work together? And out of the 12 people that were in the room, 11 of them had generally the same traits. One guy in the room had very different traits, and that was me. And my two top traits in this personality, test was futuristic, meaning I focus on the future, right? I'm good at identifying trends and always looking forward. And then woo meaning I know how to woo. I know how to step in front of an audience or step into a conversation and steer it in the right direction. So futuristic woo became my nickname, right? And then over time, it just shortened down to woo. And so through the auto industry, I did a lot of training for Toyota. I would go to different dealerships and they would all say, hey, woo's coming today so we can learn about the new Prius or we can learn about the new Camry. And so when I started my agency, we went with futuristic woo. And then just over time, just like my nickname went from futuristic woo just to woo, the agency did as well.
Right. To Woo Creative. But then how did the transition go from Woo Creative to Two-Ton?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in 2018, we started exploring acquiring other companies so that we could speed up growth. And we ended up acquiring the marketing arm, the marketing department of a larger technology company, which would actually come on and invest in the company and be a sister company of ours called Levitas. So when we did that, it was kind of a new era of the company. The company was going from about 11 or 12 team members to over 20 team members. And it was really, really important that everyone was, bought in, right? These two teams coming together. And so we split everybody up into groups and made sure that each group had a mix of both team members and said, you guys are going to pick the name. The past was about me. Past was about my nickname, but the future is about you. And so you guys are going to pick the name of our new agency. And many, many names were considered, but I think the one we all really liked was Two-Ton. And when clients ask me, what does Two-Ton mean? I say, listen, a lot of agencies have, a ton of talent, a ton of passion.
Right.
We have Two-Ton.
We got Two-Tons. Fair enough. I mean, it kind of works with it. It kind of gives the clients that kind of story as well. But can we dial the clock back a little bit before, let's say, Two-Ton, back in the auto industry itself? What kind of made you decide to start your own thing?
That's a great question. It was always something in the back of my mind. I loved watching movies where the main characters seem to always be working at some fun agency. I feel like that's a common job in movies. I just work at some cool office and it's usually a marketing agency. So it was always kind of in the back of my mind, but I was really passionate about the auto industry. So when I was working for Toyota, I very quickly climbed the corporate ladder. And within just a few years, I was the youngest to ever be promoted to an area training manager. But with that came relocation from South Florida, where my family's at, where I'm born and raised, up to the Carolinas. So I made my way back down to Florida when my son was born. My wife and I moved back to Delray Beach, and I started working for AutoNation, the number one auto dealer group in the United States. And I did the same thing. I spent a few years there, climbed the ladder very quickly, and then they want to promote me and move me to Texas. So I said, I got to stop doing this. because I want to stay in South Florida. So already I was consulting on the side. One of the things I did for Toyota was that I would go and live inside dealerships, get to know them inside and out, get to know what processes they had in place, what they were actually doing, and then I would present back what they should be doing. So I was doing that on the side for small businesses, little mom and pops, mostly in the industrial space. So think about your carpet cleaning companies, your screen enclosure companies, your windows and doors companies, towing companies. And I was already doing that for them. So one day when I decided to leave AutoNation and not take that promotion, on the way home, I started calling those clients and said, hey, you said you wanted more of me? Well, guess what? I'm available.
Right. Again, from that time, did you ever feel like maybe digital marketing was the way to go? Or did you kind of think that maybe I should become an actor altogether?
You know what? It wasn't marketing right out of the gate. It wasn't digital marketing out of the gate. It was really just brand consulting, right? And in communication. So I would sit down with these clients, and sometimes I'd even dig into the operation side of things, bringing technology to the operation side, introducing them to QuickBooks and recurring billing, simple things like that. But I was more passionate about the marketing communication side. I was more passionate about rebranding that company and then making sure all their team members were wearing the same polos that matched the same graphics on the truck, right? That had the same marketing materials that we were going to leave behind, right? I was more passionate about that side. So I slowly stopped consulting in the operating side because I really felt like I had to choose. Am I a marketing consultant or am I an operating consultant? And again, I was more passionate about the marketing side. And then over time, I had a really tough time finding partners. My clients needed graphic designers, above my skills. They needed a web development company, they needed an SEO company, and a PPC company, eventually a social media company. And I would have probably never grown an agency. I probably would have stayed as a consultant, with my, 10 clients, but I couldn't find a partner. I couldn't find any partners that I really trusted that I thought were, doing the quality of work that my clients should expect. So I started bringing those services in-house, and little by little, we turned from, a one-person consulting firm to a full-service creative agency.
One service at a time, right? You didn't really start off as, let's say, offering all the services and then niching down later?
No, we did, pretty much one service at a time. And at the beginning, it wasn't great. It was because I was doing the graphic designing, and, I taught myself. Thanks to YouTube and many free courses out there, I taught myself how to design and develop websites. I now look back at those and I'm just like, oh boy. But luckily, I'm surrounded by phenomenal designers and developers here at Tuton now, and they don't let me touch any of that anymore. But it really wasn't about necessarily the quality of work at the beginning. It was about consistency and cohesiveness of their messaging. It wasn't, hey, have the greatest website. It was, hey, you don't even have a website. So you can imagine, right? You can imagine just the idea of having a website. Hey, we're spending a lot of money over here. We probably should spend it over here. Hey, let's make sure everyone, when they go out to customers, are driving a truck that has a logo on it, that has our contact information on it. It was just about putting all those things together. And just that alone, before we talk lead gen or before we talk marketing or even social media, just those things alone, my clients were seeing a 20% increase in sales, like almost immediately. The problem is that those clients would then come to me and go, whoa, stop. 20% is good. Now you have me working Fridays, Ryan. I used to play golf on Fridays, like, hey, hold on, 20 is good. And that would be it with me and that client. Right? That would be it. I had that 20. So I had to eventually start moving on to a little bit bigger, a little bit more aggressive clients that were like, hey, 20%, great. Let's go for 30%. Let's go for 40%. Let's continue to grow together. So that's how it kind of started.
And was there, let's say, any tactic that you kind of followed? Like, let's say if a client had asked for one particular service, were you then trying to solve a need that you thought they might have had? Like, how did you kind of start the next service? Like, what was the priority order?
Yeah, we've always been big on ensuring that our clients have a foundation in place. So if they call me on the phone and say, hey, we need someone to start, making videos. Well, like today, right? We need people to start making videos on TikTok. We need you to launch a TikTok, account for us, Ryan. Well, are you even making videos on Instagram or Facebook? Are you even posting on your Instagram or Facebook? Well, let's take a look. No, you're not. So hold on. Why don't we start making videos first and start putting them on the platforms that you're already on and not using? before we introduce a whole nother platform. So it was the same thing. They may call me on the phone and say, "Hey, Ryan, I really want you to work on my advertising, my media buy." And I go, "Well, where are we driving traffic? To a website. Does that website, communicate? Is it going to close deals? Is it going to convert? Right? No, it probably isn't. Probably because of your brand, probably because of your messaging, right? And so are we even talking to all of our clients? Are you emailing them every single month to stay top of mind that, hey, I cleaned your carpet and I should clean your carpet every time, and I should clean all your family's carpet and your friend's carpet and your neighbor's carpet. It was like low hanging fruit, foundational things. Let's get those first. And then let's start layering on all those other things. That's been our approach from day one, and it's our approach today.
Right. And I feel like you've got like pretty much all the answers ready for you, but like this wasn't, let's say, the case all the time, right? Like I think when you were first starting out, there must have been a few challenges that you had to kind of go through, or a few learning pains. When you were starting Two Ton or even Woo Creative, what were some of the challenges that you kind of faced, and how did you kind of get over them?
Yeah, you know what? Luckily I had worked with agencies, and I had seen some of those pain points before, and so we put some pillars in place right out of the gate. And once in a while, I would kind of sidestep those pillars. So one of them was we don't contract, we don't outsource. So either I or my two team members at the time, either we could do it or we couldn't do it, and we were really transparent about that. We didn't say we could do it and then, go find someone to do it. But there was a few times where I tried to, bring on a partner, especially in the SEO and PPC world, where you really think that should be something easy to outsource. And then next thing you know, you're not getting the reports on the time you should be getting your reports, and the client's asking you, why don't I have that report? And so there's a few times, where I stepped outside that, that pillar of not outsourcing, not using contractors, and it didn't work out. So that just meant, hey, okay, well, then we need to ensure that we have enough clients where it makes sense for us to bring on an SEO specialist, or it makes sense for us to bring on a PPC specialist. And that's what we started doing. So to this day, if you ask us, hey, Ryan, we need you to do a public relations strategy, which I always use as an example because we are not a PR firm. I'm straight up with our clients and say, hey, that's something we can quarterback. We can bring a partner to the table. We're going to be transparent. You're going to sign a contract with that PR partner. It's going to be separate from our contract. We're more than happy to project manage that relationship and be a part of that conversation, but we don't do PR.
I mean, that kind of transparency and straightforwardness is, I think, what most clients would appreciate. But let's say if we came across a client that didn't really understand what you kind of did, or is kind of asking for something that might be out of your expectations, how would be a good way to kind of manage that kind of client expectation?
You know what? I think it's just transparency. I think your clients understanding what you do to a point, right, is really important. Because it's all about value at the end of the day. Listen, today, Two Ton is $150 an hour. If you're hiring us just to move a mouse around and make some graphics for you, we are too expensive, right? You have to see the value in it. You have to see the value in our opinion on what we should be creating with that mouse. But if we're just doing what you tell us to do, there's cheaper options for that, right? So there is an amount of understanding that you want your client to have in your company and what you're doing. And then eventually they'll tell you, which I've been told several times, it's like, okay, Ryan, that's enough. You're going too in depth for me. I don't need to know everything. And I go, okay, but I just want you to really understand. I want you to understand and see the value. I want you to know that launching a website, yeah, you can go get someone to build your website for $500, but let me show you what we do. Let me show you that we only launch compliant websites, that we only launch secure websites, that we only launch responsive websites, right? Like, let me show you how much time that takes to even prepare a website for launch, let alone design it, build it, and then launch it, right? I want my clients to see that. I want them to see the value in our relationship, because there are cheaper options. Right? There are cheaper options. So about half of what we do for our clients, they can't do themselves, right? They need us to do. But the other half, they could do themselves, but probably shouldn't be. We should be doing it. Yeah. And I always use the example of, I can mow my own lawn, but I don't.
Should I? All right.
Right? Should I? Was that where my time is best placed? Right? And it's not. And same thing with our clients. So it's kind of a mix of those two things. And we're just real open about that.
Yeah, I feel it kind of comes back to what you had said earlier about how you used to do design at one point, but you kind of now leave it up to the actual professionals, let's say, to do it, or the ones who are kind of, let's say, experts in that field specifically. I feel that comes away the same way in this kind of client interaction, where you also know that you can do X, Y, Z and you can prove it, but it's not something that you can maybe just take it out without really doing the research behind it. One thing I want to kind of get into, though, is that this education that you do with the clients, I feel like when we talked about this a bit earlier, you do it as well with your team too, right? You kind of have like a current AI learning thing with your team, I believe.
Yeah, so we're really lucky here at Teuton is that all of our team members are constantly learning. They're constantly teaching one another. They're constantly online learning about a new tool. As a matter of fact, I mean, some of our team members, I'll stop by their desk and say, man, how did we do this? And they're like, oh, well, we use this tool. And I go, well, how do we know about that tool? Well, I read about that tool and then I took a little YouTube video and I learned how to use that tool and we made this. And I'm like, oh man, how exciting is that? 4 weeks later, I'll come back around and I'll go, hey, how are we doing with that really cool tool? Like, what have we made? Oh, we don't use that anymore. We don't use that anymore. Nah, that was 4 weeks ago. That was a month or two ago. I found a better tool. And now we're doing this. Oh, wow. That's super cool. So I'm really lucky to have team members, and especially I'll say the Generation Z and millennials, they are more adapt to moving from software to software, from app to app, from tool to tool, right? And so we're lucky to have that, but we're also lucky to have Nicole, who's part of our team. She's our director of business evolution. She helps me in business development, bringing in new clients and telling them how we can evolve their marketing strategy. But the other half of her position is she's evolving us internally. So a few years ago, what she put together was a lunch and learn series. So every other month at the beginning, we would bring a speaker and do lunch and learns. But what we found out was when one of our team members would step up to do a lunch and learn and say, hey, you know what, I would actually like to do one. I think there's something I can teach our team. Those were the most valuable. The most valuable was when a team member was standing up saying, hey, I want to do that. So this, we still have that going on this year. So every other month, a team member is doing a lunch and learn, or we bring in an outside source. But at the same time, we've layered on another initiative. And that initiative is our AI initiative. Everyone is taking online courses, whatever the source is, we'll subscribe to it. We'll get a membership of it. They can go and take online courses, and it's custom to their job. So our controller, right? He's taken an AI course about accounting and about invoicing and, about how can he make his job more efficient. Our designers, they're taking one. Our developers, they're taking one. I'm taking one, right? So everybody across the board, our initiative this year at your own time. Now we're not talking a 3-hour, YouTube video. That's not a course, right? Yeah. We're all taking a course that will take a long time. It'll take many phases, and there's exercises, right? Those are the type of courses we're taking, and everyone has to do it at their own time. But I will say that we jumped into this year, and everyone wanted to jump right into the courses, right? They don't want to fit it in at the end of the year and not be able to use what they learned in 2024.
Exactly.
It's been really exciting. It's been eye-opening, for me. Some of the team members that have already gone through a lot of the courses just did a lunch and learn. I was able to be part of that lunch and learn on some really exciting AI tools.
Right. And we can probably jump into AI a little bit, but I want to know, when it comes to hiring employees, is there, let's say, a special formula that you have to find the right ones? Because I feel like a lot of people, hire someone and hope for the best. But is there something that you do differently?
Don't do that. Don't just hope for the best. So I'll tell you, when I first started, it was all about hiring good people. It wasn't necessarily about resume or background. I just needed people that I knew that I could trust. Well, we can teach you everything else. One of my first team members was my brother. You can trust my brother. He knew nothing about web design and development. I could teach him that. He left as like a senior level developer, right? Like it's team members like that help build this company. But as you continue to grow, you start running out of brothers and you start running out of friends, right? That you can't hire everybody, And I found that hiring good people, get them in for an interview like as soon as possible. Even if their resume doesn't meet exactly what you're looking for, There's a joke around the office here that like Ryan doesn't even know your resume. He doesn't know whether you went to college or what you went to college for. And it's kind of true because that's not really what's important to me. Right. Now my team has a pretty strict, formula that they stick to for hiring. So they'll bring someone in for an initial conversation, let's say for project manager, right? Very important position here at Two-Ton, very important position, at a lot of companies and a lot of industries. They'll bring that individual and they'll have an initial interview with them. Their second interview will actually be with the other PMs that they'll be working with. After that, I believe they're given an exercise. And that exercise is examples of how you would deal with clients that are maybe having some issues and how you would reply to them in an email or in Basecamp, our project management software. And then after that is a final interview with leadership to make sure that, we're all aligned on expectations. So we've really put in quite a formula because, what they say, hire slow, right? So while it can be a little frustrating as we're like, hey, man, we really need this person, take the time, put them through the processes, right? And hire slow, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the issue like a lot of people do have. They feel like if in order to scale up as quickly as possible, they need to hire as quickly as possible. I think people just forget that the longer term goals are what really count. Are there other ways to kind of scale up that you've also done with your business?
You know what? Here's the other thing. Good people know good people. Right. So if you've created an organization that has a great culture and a great reputation and is paying well and has good benefits, and you have a team of 25, they know other people that maybe aren't at a company, right? That they're loving their, job every single day, that they feel like they're valued, but they're hearing from their friend that they've got that job, right? And they're seeing on social media that, man, this Two-Ton team's always doing really neat, team activities, and they're putting out great work. And man, I talked to my friend and, she's working 40 hours. I'm over here working 50 hours and I'm not having any of that fun, So leveraging all of that, putting that out into the world, don't be shy about that. And I'm not shy about it because it took a lot of, hard work and time and money to build a company like that, build it the right way, right? And to build a culture like that, that culture is now out of my hands. It's in the hands of, the company of our team members. So I would say good people know good people, and just, make sure you know what your reputation is. And it's worth the investment. I'll tell you, it's worth the investment in creating a company that people want to work for, because when you go and you need to hire, you'll have a line out the door.
Yeah. And you don't have another line out the door trying to leave the company because of the current culture. You kind of just retain those employees for as long as possible.
Exactly.
But in terms of investing, when it comes to, let's say, investing in AI for services to provide for clients or for yourself, is that something that you are currently doing, or is it just ChatGPT and the content?
No, we kind of have a rule that if it's a subscription service, that's anywhere from, $10 to $30 a month, which pretty much covers most subscription services, buy it. You got to empower your people. You do not have to fill out some form and wait for your manager's approval and go buy it. Just like all of us, though, let's keep track, and we're going to keep track of our subscriptions, right? So all of a sudden, we don't look on our bank account and we've got all these subscriptions we're not using, right? So we ask everyone to take care of that. And of course, we have a process where a controller is always looking at that as well. But one, got to empower to go, spend the funds to try out those new tools and not hold that up. And then two, time. It's not just an investment of money, it's investment in time. If your team members don't feel like they have the time to go on and watch a YouTube video to learn how to use that tool, right? Or they don't feel like they have the time to do research on how there might be a better way to do something, well, then you're never going to get the benefit of any of those things. You can't expect someone to do that all on their own, free time. Go home and learn a new tool and train yourself, and then come in and we get to take advantage of it because you did that in your free time. No, you got to give your team members time to do that.
I like how maybe a year ago when I would ask a question related to AI, the first conversation would be more about, a lot of people are talking about how people are going to lose their jobs and it's going to replace a whole bunch of people. And then having this conversation with you, we're like, no, we empower all employees to take it up and, enhance themselves to use the AI. Are there any
Oh,
words of wisdom in terms of what you think the future will hold for AI?
I could not tell you what the future of AI is. And
It'll change in a week.
our sister company is an AI company. Like if I open these doors, you would see literal robots and drones walking around with AI inside them. And so even now I spend all day right here, surrounded by AI. I don't know what the future has, but what I can tell you is that this isn't the first time that a game-changing tool has come around in our industry.
Right.
The computer, that was a pretty big one. Marketing's been around a lot longer than the computer, and I'm sure there was plenty of people that said, "Oh, I'm out of a job. They don't need me anymore. I'm sketching everything, I'm cutting everything out, I'm placing it on ads. These ads are being photographed to be put into a newspaper, and now I'm done. They don't need a graphic designer anymore." Yeah, we do. You're just going to use this tool now, right? And so same thing. I watched a talk about AI specifically in regards to image generation, and they said, who's going to be the best at image generation? Photographers, because they know all the key terms. I'm going to jump in as a non-photographer, and I'm going to jump in and say, give me a photo of a family getting out of a golf cart, out front of their house. The photographer is going to go, give me a picture of a family dressed like this, looks like this, using this camera, using this lens. You can get that specific from this angle at this time of the day with this type of lighting at this aperture, right? They're going to put all those specifics in there. So while some of us might think, oh man, we can just create images with AI, photographers are out of a job. Well, what about the other way around is, photographers now have a whole nother tool, right? And so that's the way we're looking at it here. We can't ignore it. We can't just, put blinders on and ignore it. We got to leverage it, and hopefully leverage it better than anybody else.
Yeah. To your point, funnily enough, today we had another example at Stan Ventures, something similar to that, where we kind of gave a content writer a prompt to create a social media post. Mm-hmm. And we gave just a regular, let's say, SEO person who didn't really know much about content to create the same SEO post. One person just gave, hey, create a social media post for this topic. And it came a very basic output. And the content writer gave a full story before even asking the question, hey, this is what I need you to do. Like you are an expert social media. This is the kind of angle I want. This is the kind of tone that I want. So I think the term that we use is garbage in, garbage out. I'm pretty sure you guys kind of follow the same.
That's it. Yeah. And that's going to continue to compound, right? Like that's the very basic of AI. But, as we continue to utilize it more and all that it offers, the more right? The more knowledge you have, and knowledge not just on how to use AI, but knowledge in what you're asking AI to do. Right. The better the output's going to be.
One thing I want to pick your brain on is that are there, let's say, tools that you are developing for yourself that kind of use AI as well, like to kind of help you with your own work?
For myself in my position?
For the company, basically, for Tutan? Like, are there any tools that you guys are developing?
You know what? I think right now we're focused on creating custom GPTs. That's the big initiative here. As you can imagine, we have so many clients with so many voices and tones. Their brands have voices and tones and so many strategies and history and background. And so to be able to put the time in to create a custom GPT that knows everything about that client, that can read through the catalogs, can read through all their PDFs, can read through all the RFPs that they've ever submitted to win an account. Really just loading it up with a really strong knowledge base to where they know everything about this company and more than we do. And then make sure they know all that about their top 3 competitors and about their industry and about what's trending in their industry and their voice and tone and their marketing strategy, and to put it all in there and then start leveraging that GPT. That's really where our team is right now. They're putting a lot of time. Any extra time that they have is like, hey, instead of every time having to tell them, about our client Palm and Ivy, right? A new restaurant in Hope Sound. Let's create a custom GPT that we can go into, which already knows and is keeping up on everything happening with Palm and Ivy.
Right. I'm kind of glad that AI has made a lot of things easier, but also made it so efficient that we can make our own work a lot easier as well. And we don't have to really struggle with the manual labor or just the countless hours we have to spend for a menial task. But the last kind of question that I have for you, it's kind of not really much of a question, to be honest. It's more of less like a self-promotion. But if you had, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes to give, let's say, an elevator pitch for yourself and 2Ton, how would that look like?
Oh, wow. I would just say that when it comes to any service for your business, look for someone you can trust, right? Okay. If you're bringing on a partner that you can trust, you guys will find your way to success, right? And that's what a lot of our clients right out of the gate are looking for. Unfortunately, they're coming out of bad relationships. They're coming out with marketing companies that didn't spend the money the way they said they were spending the money. Didn't deliver the reports they said they were going to report. They look like a 30-person agency. They were really a 2-person agency, right? Because they were outsourcing all the work, right? And they're coming out of those relationships, and they have barriers up. They have a wall up, right? Because they just don't trust their marketing partners anymore. And so we break that down and say, hey, there's a reason why you're on the phone with the CEO of the company. At 2Ton, we don't have sales reps. Right? Every relationship starts with the CEO of the company, ideally meeting in person, but sometimes we got to be on Zoom, looking you in the eye and saying, hey, from day one, you're going to have my cell phone. You're never going to be handed to a sales rep. You're never going to be handed to an account rep because we don't have those positions. You are going to meet the people that are working on your account. They are full-time associates here at 2Ton. They are not contractors. They're not working on other clients somewhere else. They're not balancing another job. They're not working. They're getting paid hourly. Everyone's a full-time salaried associate, all committed to you. So that what I would say is the number one thing. When you go out there and look for a partner, whether it's a marketing partner or accounting partner or a legal partner, find someone local. Find someone that's willing to take the time to build the relationship, to earn your trust. And it has values that align with your values, of hiring in-house and creating jobs and investing in people. We're the marketing department. We're going to try a bunch of different fun things, and they're not all going to be successful. So how are we going to handle the failures together? Are we going to own them together? Are we going to own our failures? Are we going to correct them? Because we're not always going to win 100% of the time, right? Having that conversation right out of the gate and talking about expectations of the relationship, that would be my recommendation. 2Ton's great at that. And I think I've always been really, transparent with my relationships as well.
And where can people find you and 2Ton?
So you can go to 2ton.com. That's the number 2, TON.com. Super easy. You can learn all about our company. Visit our team page. We have little videos, every single one of our team members, so you can kind of get to know them and their personalities. And then follow us on social media. We just had a really great article go up the other day, all about how important it is to invest in a really great campaign and messaging before you go out throwing ads and spending money out in the world. So follow us on social media, and then you can also find me out there on LinkedIn, on Instagram as well. But I think 2Ton's a better follow.
All right, we pretty much added it in our transcript as well, so in case people get. They have all the options to kind of go and choose it. But thank you so much again for this chat, Ryan. It's been great. I think halfway through the pitch that you were giving towards the end, I felt like, wait a minute, should I be joining this company too? This seems like a really good pitch. But thank you for the entire thing. Thank you for explaining stuff also so well. It's been really good.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you for the discussion today and giving me the opportunity to talk about 2Ton, talk about all my team members.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.